Hello YouTube, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Raspberry, a graphic designer and illustrator, and in this video I want to show you how to approach an ink drawing or painting from start to finish. Since Inktober started a while ago, I thought it could be useful for some of you. If it isn't so useful, perhaps you still enjoy it. At first, you need to pay attention to the paper you use. If you want to use wet techniques as well, you should use a paper that is capable of absorbing a lot of water. Why I would recommend watercolor paper or paper that is designed for wet mediums in general. You could also use mixed media paper, which usually has a very smooth surface. With watercolor paper you can decide between cold press and hot press paper. If you want to work with ink pens and fountain pens, I would recommend hot press paper, which tends to be a lot smoother than cold press. This is important because the nib of the pen can easily get caught by the texture and the little bumps in the paper. If you want to paint with ink and water, you could use either, depends on your liking. I use hot press watercolor paper from Boesner, that's a German brand. I would suggest to do the sketches on normal paper and then transfer it onto your special paper so you don't waste the usually very expensive watercolor paper. I tend to refine the sketch from paper to paper, so I have a lot of drawings in the end. It is a very long process, but for me it's worth it because I'm sure that I'm really happy with the sketch or the drawing. Use a pen that is easy to erase, like this colored pencil. Also, when you erase the sketch later, you don't have to destroy the texture of the paper so much, so just lightly draw the sketch onto the watercolor paper. Then I would recommend to use masking tape, or some use washi tape, to secure your paper to a flat surface like your table. When the paper is wet, it wilts and buckles when it dries, so if you tape it down, it can't do that and dries almost flat. Next, if you want to draw outlines, you can choose your ink pen. I like to draw the lines first, but you could also paint the planes first and then add lines afterwards. I try to also vary my strokes in thickness and usually draw thicker lines when this is an area where there could be shadow, or if it's a big object like the frame in this case. For the delicate features of a face I use finer lines, also because I can always make them thicker if I want to. Hello, so this is me from editing. I noticed that my head pokes into the video a lot. I'm so sorry for that. I try to do better in the next video, but for now, I guess it's like this. For this year's Inktober, I decided to not be so ambitious because I have experienced over the years that I want to achieve a certain quality in my pieces and really be satisfied with them, as well as experiment with the techniques and improve. And I feel like I can't really do that if I have to draw an ink drawing every single day, additional to my 40-hour work week and chores and friends and stuff. And I thought one piece per week is a good compromise to still participate and achieve my goals. I don't follow a specific prompt list this year. I just started with the loose idea of front portraits of women embedded in a frame, and then they just developed, and very much to my surprise I really like my ideas and the outcome. So now I gently erase the lines of a sketch and then I go over them with my ink pens again to thicken and emphasize the lines. Check that the lines are really dry, otherwise you will cause some ugly smearing. I'm not really sure if I want to try special techniques this year, so I will just show you some on a different paper. There is this technique which works with watercolors as well, where you paint wet areas with ink or color and then you use cautious salt to sprinkle it on there. Make sure that you don't use too much water, but also try your surface not to be too dry. I know it sounds difficult, but you can try this like me on a spare paper and check how it works best for you. Anyways, the salt on water technique, I don't actually know the real name, creates a really special grainy effect. I like to use it for cloth or backgrounds when I want to have a certain texture. The next technique is a wet and wet technique. You choose a certain area and moisten it with clean water, then you use your ink or color and paint on the wet surface. Try to be cautious while applying. It's better to use less ink and add it to than the other way around. the ink will find its way through the water and create beautiful textures. This is also really unpredictable, so it requires a little bit of practice, but it's really worth it in my opinion. What you could also try, and is a quite common practice, is cross-hatching. I'm not really an expert in cross-hatching, but when you are good at it, it really enhances your drawings. You can basically cross-hatch in every direction you like, but I tend to go with the direction of the drawing, if you know what I mean. But I will show it to you on this spare paper. The technique I use this time is just using the ink like you would use color, just without the color, so you just have the values. When painting with ink, you have to really pay attention to the values because the color doesn't distract the eye. Okay, I used red as an accent color, but I hope you get what I mean. It's much more obvious to the human eye when the values are off in a black and white painting. As I planned my Inktober pieces, I did some rough color and value mockups in Photoshop to decide which I like best. I wanted the frame to have the same value in every piece, so I basically had to adjust the other values to the frame. As you may have experienced yourself, painting with wet mediums takes a lot of time because you have to take account of the drying time each time you make a change to your art piece. A simple trick that you probably know by now is to shorten the drying time with using a hairdryer. You have to be a little cautious with this and start with a lower setting, especially when you use a lot of water, because otherwise the hot air can actually blow the water across the paper and create really bad smudges, and you don't want that. On the other hand, if you use this to your advantage, it could create some nice dripping effects. So this is all I can tell you at this point. If you want to, you can watch the last minutes of my painting and listen to the music. I hope you enjoyed the video and you could maybe learn a few things from this. Please click the like and subscribe button, and I wish you a very nice Inktober. Bye YouTube!